What's good, everyone? This is Dr. Nee Darko. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that you're always up to date on the new uploads as well as alerts on this show. The other thing that you can do to help build this community is make sure you leave a comment below. Let us know what you like, what you don't like about the show, and ultimately, let us know who's winning these arguments, because I need to know that I'm beating Renee in these debates. Run the tape. So there's a Congressman Greg Murphy. He put out a tweet and he says the number one reason for MD shortage is med schools admitting students who aren't going to practice. Only 60% of med students today plan on practicing clinical medicine. Med schools need to focus on admitting students who want to take care of patients, not just get their MD. It should be mandated that unless disabled, each medical school graduate should have to practice medicine full time for 15 years minimum to refund the federal government for the cost of tuition. So if you look at most surveys, realistically, the two major issues that cause people to leave medicine is burnout, right? So you're either not happy with your job, you're tired, you're not getting a chance to see your family, you have a mental breakdown, or the other category is usually money, right? Like, for whatever reason, money is an issue and you're like, I can either make money better doing something else, or I can spend more time with my money doing something that's less stressful. But those are usually the two main issues, which is the person is burnt out or money is a major issue. And usually it's student loan related and so forth. So
at least student loan as a contributor.
Those are usually the systemic issue, well, part of the systemic issues what will cause someone to say, you know what, either while in medical school, they're like, yo, I'm out, because I see my attendings or I see residents, or I just see greener pastures doing something else, or you're in residency or you're a young attending and you're like, this has an expiration date before 15 years.
Right.
Is that you kind of just see the writing on the wall that, listen, like for the next 30 years, I just definitely don't want to be doing this.
Right.
That's where the focus should be on, is like, yo, why is the whole practice of healthcare, why is it very stressful at the people who make the most decisions all the time? Right. So I always look at it like, as a trauma surgeon, I'm like leading a team, right? And I have a team of other docs. I have a team of, nurses. There's a team of, allied health professionals. But I'm the one who has to make all the decisions. And I'm the one who's responsible for documenting. I'm the one who's responsible for billing. I'm the one who's responsible for a lot of the menial things that occur in a patient's care, but I have to make the most critical decisions.
Right.
That's fucking stressful.
Of course it's stressful.
Fucking stressful. Like if I'm, 1 minute I'm doing a peer-to-peer and then the next minute I'm cracking someone's chest, right? And that peer-to-peer is based off of someone being able to leave a hospital and go to rehab. And then administration is coming down on me because you're not doing a peer-to-peer. But then the next minute I got to crack someone's chest.
Right.
And then talk to families. It's just like it's just a lot of different things that you got to do.
Yeah. So
disinformation.
Dr. Cooper says disinformation, distraction for sure. Exactly. And Foothill, we waved. And is it Chamarita? 910, we waved. But yeah.
So do you see yourself practicing past 15 years?
I don't know. I mean,
right now you're at year 12 though.
Yeah. I mean,
like 4 years.
I don't know, but what I do know is that if I'm paying,
how about this? Actually, you work with students. You've worked with some who are residents. Have you heard any residents, or do you know of a bunch of residents who are saying,
no,
15 years or less?
No. Actually, I would argue that at least most people that I encounter tend to look at medicine the traditional way, in that they will get out of residency and they will practice in very traditional ways.
There's no expiration date. They're just like, I'm just going to practice. And then
they're just going to practice. Most students, most residents that I encounter are not necessarily talking about, well, I'm going to leave medicine after such and such a time, that I have an expiration date or whatever. So I'm not quite sure who he's encountering, especially he's a congressman. So I'm like, how many pre-meds and residents are you actually encountering to say that you are even, that this statistic even exists? I would just like to know where he got the statistics.
Do you think this would have caused as much outrage if it's just that first tweet? I don't know.
Of course.
You know?
I think so. I think, 60%, listen, 60% is, right? That's
of people who are going to practice.
Of people who are going to practice, right, who are going to practice. 60% is a small percentage when you think about how many people are getting into medical school. And, to say that 40% of them are not going to practice is just kind of like, are you serious?
Where's that number coming from?
I just want to know.
I wish he shared his sources on that one, because then we'd be able to say.
Typically, right, as physicians, as doctors, we know.
Is that a survey?
No, we know. I will tell you, any doctor worth their weight in salt, gold, and stethoscopes knows that whenever they pull a statistic out of their head.
Where'd you get that from?
I made that up.
Okay.
When they pull a statistic out of their head, what do? We cite it. We cite where we got the statistic. Otherwise, it doesn't count. So Congressman Murphy, it doesn't count until you tell us where you got that statistic from. It doesn't count. What you said doesn't make any sense until you can tell us. Give us a study. Give us some sort of something. Go to PubMed. Go to Medscape. Go anywhere. Go to Ebony Magazine. Figure it out. Where did you get that statistic?
Is Ebony still in circulation?
Yes, it is. But tell us where you got that statistic.
Cooper, is Ebony still? Write it down. Is Ebony still in publication?
So Dr. Cooper says, I agree. We give up our youth to study and become doctors while many residents want better work-life balance. Folks aren't talking about not practicing medicine. And that's the whole point. That's exactly on point. As much as we talk about, well, we want work-life balance, there is the literal work-life balance. People still want to work. Want that balance with their lives. I'm not saying we're not working.
I think for my perspective is, because I think we see the majority of people who go to medical school don't need student loans, right?
No.
Is that what they say?
I don't know.
Because the majority of people who go to medical school come from an affluent background.
Right.
But I don't know if that means that they take student loans. I don't know.
Oh no, we did that. We did that. What's the name? When we did the NRMP.
Right.
But yeah, there was some study, I can't remember, that talked about the number of students needing, I think, student loans versus those who didn't. And it was broken down by race.
Are there any doctors who are like on the left at all?
What do you mean? In Congress?
Yeah, in Congress.
I don't know.
That'd be interesting to know. It just seems like most doctors who are in office are on the right.
Dr. Cooper said, he ain't got no studies. I know he ain't got no studies.
Yeah, because he would just cite that.
Right. He would cite it. He would absolutely cite it.
This is crazy. But I'll just say this. Don't believe the hype. I'm very suspicious of this. And I'm very suspicious about the rationale behind putting in the second part. Because I'm like, are they trying to say basically if you don't practice past 15 years, is a law coming? Is there some type of resolution coming?
But how?
I don't know. I don't know.
How?
I don't know.
Are they going to call the loan?
No. What I'm saying
is that what he's saying? That they're going to call the loan?
Either call the loan or they can do something with residency. If you go through residency.
But you're working. They would literally have to change the labor laws.
Yeah.
Because at that point, if you change the labor laws in residency, you open up a can of worms.
But then this is what I'm saying. Like, is they pulling this out their ass just to like confuse people?
Oh, well, I mean, of course, but it's always to confuse people.
But yeah, I feel like there is some sense that there's this doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. But
the only other thing that I could think of is that they would call the loan, right? To basically say, okay, now we're going to call the loan. But here's my question. That means that
you don't change any labor laws for residency. I'm about to start. He says, don't change any labor laws for residency. I'm about to start Gen Surge residency. And you won't regret it. Gen Surge is the best decision that you could ever make. I'm telling you right now.
Okay, here's a poster child for Gen Surge residency. Yeah, unless he's...
So it's... Oh, okay, it's me. Didn't mean to interrupt y'all. You're all good. It's all good, man.
So that means that... calling the loan would... I'm saying calling the loan, assuming everybody knows what that means. But calling the loan basically means that at some point in time, somebody
Sally Mae says, yo, we want our money now.
All the money now.
Not in 30 years or 20 years. We want the money now.
We would want all the money now. But here's the question. So are we saying that essentially that doctors would have to report how they are working?
You already have to do that.
To the government.
You already have to do that.
How?
When you do your, for example, in Pennsylvania, when you get your student or when you do your license, you have to do a survey. You don't remember that?
No, I understand.
And in that survey,
what I'm saying
let me finish. In that survey, it does ask you, how many years do you plan on practicing? How do you practice now? Are you happy with how you're practicing? Things like that. So that precedent is already there.
I get that. But that's if you're licensed.
Right.
And that's if you continue to be licensed. You don't have to be licensed. You don't, I bet you governor,
What do you mean you don't have to be licensed?
You don't have to be licensed as a physician. You can decide you're just not going to license anywhere. I'm not going to renew my license.
Well, if you don't renew
your Congressman Murphy licensed right now?
If you don't renew your license, then
you can look that up. Is he licensed anywhere?
If you don't renew your license, then
so then who are you reporting that to?
I don't know.
But that's what I'm asking, right? Because if you're not working, that would mean you would have to report that you are not working as a physician. You are not practicing clinically.
Or something goes out that says, prove to us that you are working.
Right. Basically, you would have to report that you're not.
Something goes out. And they can find out easily, right? They can do this based off of MPI information. They can do this based off of license information. They can double check all that stuff.
I understand. But now, so we're saying that we're going to put government funds.
Yes, they will do it.
Go and look to see if the doctor is working.
Yes.
So that's what I want to know. It's like, so you're going to take money to go figure out who's working and how they're working.
So I would just say that based off of how things have been going over the past 9 days with immigration, yeah. So they normally have flights that are chartered that are like $8,000. And now they're using like these military planes that are like $200,000 just to do the same thing that they're doing charter. Like they ain't playing. So whatever amount of money they're going to use just to make a big deal, I can't see them sparing an expense to do that. So, girl, what words did she take right out of your mouth?
Huh? I took the word.
Emily.
There's a lag.
Dr. Emily's always on your side anyway.
Of course she is. Mm-hmm. That's my girl.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, so that essentially means that essentially doctors would be policed as if we were military workers, right? Because a military worker has to report where they are, what they're doing, right? Potentially if they're going to be on active duty.
Clocking doctors. So I'll be, right. I don't know if you guys have listened to my previous episodes, but I've said it already that doctors are blue collar workers. I think that the notion that we were white collar workers, that doesn't exist anymore. White collar workers in healthcare are people in the C-suite, right? Mm-hmm. So your CEOs, your COOs, your CFOs.
The people with the BAs in Spanish.
Those type of people are the white collar workers.
They got a BA in
Doctors
Spanish.
And other people who provide, clinical care.
Como se dice?
Blue collar workers. And as a result, you're starting to see more doctors strike. And what do blue collar workers do? They strike. And that's no play on what we do. I love what I do as a surgeon, but I think we have to come to grips with this is what we are. We're blue collar workers, and blue collar workers, what they do is they strike. Plain and simple. So
right.
I'm not always on Nay's side, usually. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know how far back that goes.
Hey.